Welcome back, everybody, to the Lynn Scott Hagerman podcast, where truth has no filter, freedom is our mission, and the light of God exposes every work of darkness. I am your host, Lynn Scott Hagerman, survivor of child trafficking and medical experimentation underground at a U.S.-based university medical center in conjunction with our government through MKUltra mind control. I am the voice they tried to silence, and I am silent no more. Praise God. Today, I'm a child of God, a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, and a friend of Holy Spirit, and my calling is clear and unwavering. I'm to expose the darkness, elevate survivors and whistleblowers, reveal the truth, restore lives, and protect the little children. This broadcast airs Tuesday through Friday and Sunday at 2 o'clock Central Time across all of our broadcast platforms with the Patriots Prayer Network. Today, I'm also an international human resource consultant, a marathoner, and a weightlifter, living proof that restoration is possible in mind, body, and spirit, which is one of our topics today. Also, please be sure to visit qgrit.org and sign up for the newsletter. That's God's plan for the aftercare of the little ones once they're rescued from above ground or below ground trafficking, as well as ideas to help adults with trauma of any type, which we're going to talk about today. And also, please be sure to visit Live Younger with Lynn, and Lynn is Lynne, liveyoungerwithlynn.com. And that is my website for LifeWave. I'm an independent LifeWave distributor. It is the wearable med bed. And reach out to me with any questions. There's an email that you can reach out to me on that website. So today's guest, as I'm sure all of you know, is Cathy O'Brien. She is a survivor, a thriver, an author, and one of the very, very earliest voices to publicly expose MKUltra and the use of trauma-based mind control inside the government and institutional systems. Cathy is also a dear friend, and it's an honor to have this conversation together. Cathy is going to share what MKUltra is, how its methods have never stopped, and how the same psychological mechanisms are still visible today through her lived experience and her hard-earned clarity and freedom of mind and thought. We're also going to talk about her new book, which I'm super excited about, Align with the Divine. Cathy, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. It's always good seeing you.
It's always good seeing you too. So I'll start out the show with a little recap of what you and I have been through over the past hour.
Yeah, that's good.
So folks, we are over target. I know a lot of you, normally I'll have hundreds of people waiting to watch my shows, and today was no different. What happened today that was very different, though, was that the technology would not work at all. And we finally went offline to Zoom and started recording there. And so we're going to get the message to you one way or the other. And this tells us that we are absolutely over target.
Absolutely. I'm no stranger to censorship. National security was invoked on my 1995 testimony for Congress. And I've been censored ever since I've been speaking out. I'm a survivor of CIA MKUltra mind control, and I've been speaking out on mind control and healing from it for over 35 years. So definitely, I'm no stranger to censorship. But yeah, today was a little extreme. All we're talking about here is peace, love, well-being, happiness, birthright, to align with the divine and live the love we are and live our freedom,
That's
and
right.
share knowledge. That's our defense against mind control. That really is truth that makes us free. And it's why we do get suppressed so hard, is because these perpetrators who are imposing MKUltra mind control on a global population need to keep people ignorant and in the dark as to what mind control entails, because it is only through secrecy that they're able to accomplish their goals. When we're awake and aware, when we see what's going on, we say no, we don't comply. So that's their greatest fear, is that we're going to gain that knowledge, that we're going to reclaim our free thought, free will, strength of spirit, and live the love we are. That's such a high vibration, they can't touch it. I was deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp among these perpetrators who steal elections, who use drug and human trafficking across open borders to fund their globalist agenda, and who are using mind control to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, and Joe Biden term the New World Order. There's a handful of self-appointed, self-anointed global leaders that also refer to it as a New World Order. Or they might change it over to the Great Reset, and they might change it to something else. The point's the same. This has been going on a long time, and it's been deliberately designed to dumb humanity down so that we are compliant and easily led with an adverse agenda. We have to be pretty pretty linear in our thinking and dumb down considerably. When we don't have our free thought and our soul expression, we lose our wisdom. And our wisdom is discernment of truth. It's an ability to think higher and deeper than this criminal mind, this artificial intelligence. We have the victory. We have wisdom that outthinks it every time. And that is what mind control is about. Why it's being imposed on people is to keep us compliant and at a lower vibration where we're in harmony with artificial intelligence and their criminal mind. These perpetrators are a dark, negative energy force. They're very low vibration, and they their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit and the power of love. It's such a high vibration, they can't touch it. It's such a high vibration, they can't win a spiritual warfare. We have the victory. We have the saving grace. We've got it within us. We just need to remember who we are, why we're here, and understand what it is that we're up against. Because this dark, negative energy force is like, it's darkness that can't creep in on our light. It doesn't work that way. Our light shines in the darkness and exposes all their dark secrets. So
Right.
we've got such an amazing time of evolution going on. It's a mental and spiritual evolution, and it's one where people are waking up. The Great Awakening is real. Mind control is real. The people who are still wanting to understand more about MKUltra need to understand that the documents have been declassified. They're not even redacted anymore, thousands of pages. It's been a year now that these MKUltra documents have been available. Anybody can research, look into it for themselves. And how great for us survivors. You know, all these years when we've been talking about MKUltra and people didn't want to believe it, now it's right there. With the evidence is in, and they can research it for themselves. When they do, they'll understand that mind control is a sliding scale from the kind of torturous, robotic MKUltra mind control I experienced to information control. Because we all formulate our thoughts, opinions, and ultimately our actions based on what we know. We need to know that knowledge base has been deliberately altered a long, long time to keep us looking outside ourselves to big government, big tech, big pharma, big cult to cult religion to tell us how to live our lives when we've been blessed with the strength and the victory all along within us all. So we've had information on mind control deliberately censored so people didn't understand their own mind brain function, to understand that when trauma occurs, our brains freeze in fright. Trauma is the basis of mind control. Fear causes our brain to freeze in fright. And if our conscious mind is frozen in fright, then our subconscious mind is wide open to being easily led and manipulated. With our conscious mind filter distracted over here, we just take information in. And if information goes into our subconscious, that information drives our thoughts and ultimately our actions going forward. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control. If we hear it 3 times, it goes into the subconscious. How many times did you hear mask up, social distance, get the injection? How many times? It's what everybody heard. And it was a form of mass mind control, masked as a virus that was unleashed on the global population. Everyone, everywhere has had a taste of mind control now. And because of that, we all need to understand the components of it so that we can start saying no, reclaim, and retain our free thought going forward.
So, Kathleen, let's spend a minute on COVID as an example of the MKUltra mind control and walk people through again how, because we've all lived through that now above ground, and everyone listening in the audience, they've lived through it. So, what exactly happened to us all during that time? How was MKUltra seen? How was everyone brainwashed to put toilet paper over their face to stop the worst virus known to man and inject themselves with a a product where the sheet was blank that we didn't know, people didn't know what was in it, they didn't, and not be with their loved ones. And so how that explain to people the steps of MKUltra so they understand that this is happening just as big and just as strong as whenever you and I were going through it.
Oh, absolutely. They've got it refined so much at this point. And again, repetition's the most basic form of mind control. So everywhere we went, everywhere, no matter what media device we had on, it was telling us the same thing. And when people masked up, masks are used in MK Ultra mind control very deliberately because they depersonalize. You can't see if someone's smiling or sneering. They inhibit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis, free thought, and they muffle voices. So it's a mind control device, and people wore it. They went for it because they were repetitively told to do it. Look what we did to a generation of children, masking them up, telling them that if they didn't wear that mask, that grandma would die. That's just
Torture.
it is. It's that's what pedophile abusers and satanic abusers tell little children too. You tell, and your dog will die, or your mom will die, or they always make that threat. It's a very well worn form of mind control, and that terror, that trauma. Was imposed on our little children. Worse, they were put behind plexiglass where they couldn't talk with each other, or touch each other, have any physical contact. And it caused depersonalization disorder. It's where their identity became affected by wearing those masks. By having the identity affected, they redefined it as gender confusion. It's not. It was identity confusion from the depersonalization brought on by those masks. So it was very cleverly renamed as gender disorder so that they could impose the transgender movement, which is not only a mind control agenda, but it is a depopulation agenda because the human procreation stops with that that alteration. So those little children went from not being able to hug grandma and being sitting behind plexiglass and wearing masks to sticking dollars in tranny panties the next year.
Yes, they did.
With their minds, big time messed with their minds. So we're seeing the results of that. We're seeing reverberations of what's going on with the children. We've had so many people have adverse physical effects from having got the injection. Many people have died. And then the guilt is overwhelming for a lot of people saying, why did I insist?
Yeah.
And it's because of mind control. Mind control is absolute. When we're not paying attention, when we're not consciously aware of what's going on, the subconscious mind gets manipulated and starts leading our thoughts without us. And I know from my experience in MK Ultra that without free thought, there's no free will. With no free will, there's no soul expression. Without soul expression, we lose our discernment of truth. We lose our compassion for each other. We lose our wisdom. We lose our ability to gather that infinite strength of the human spirit to live our life's purpose and say no to trafficking of our children and sexualization of our children. We lose our ability to live the love we are, to align with the divine within and have that absolute anchor of morality and our humanity to carry us through. And it comes with free thought. It comes with understanding mind control. It comes with understanding that these perpetrators who are imposing it only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. We have all the power. We just got to remember to access it. And it begins by reclaiming our free thought.
So, what do you see with current events that also is very MKUltra oriented?
Well, there's a lot of different things that are happening in our society. I'm absolutely appalled at what happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination right in front of all those youth, who were gravitating to a positive motivation message, and it was very deliberately designed to traumatize them, make them feel like they should never speak up, make them feel, um, that where they're just frozen in fright for that moment. And when they get bombarded with the subconscious and manipulated and derailed from the purpose and point of what they were doing. That's one massive MK Ultra thing, and it affected all of us. Everyone was traumatized over such a blatant assassination right in front of all of us. It's like when the Kennedy assassination occurred, that traumatized the nation and made us all compliant. It's when these global perpetrators took over. It started eroding our constitutional values of freedom and justice for all to sell us out to a globalist agenda. So, we need to understand that the trauma is a very big component of mind control. Also, sleep, food, and water deprivation are components. People are working 9 to 5, 5 to 9, not sleeping properly, not getting enough rest. When we don't get enough rest, we're more suggestible and easily led. Our brains aren't firing properly. We're not sharp. We're not using our brilliant minds to the maximum that we should. So they work all those hours to put food on the table that has no nutritional value because it's been deliberately genetically altered and bioengineered to starve our brains. If our brains are starved, again, they're not firing properly. All this is being done to dumb us down, to bring us to a low vibration level to align with artificial intelligence, criminal, slave society agenda. Water deprivation, look what's done to our water. If it's not coming through the fluoride and the chemicals that are put in our water, it's coming from the skies now that are being just absolutely saturated and affecting every living aspect. So we have a lot to clean up. Every one of those components is affecting our brilliant minds. Mind control shuts down neuron pathways. We want those neuron pathways open so that we can shine brilliantly, live the love we are, live our life's purpose, and live life the way it's intended to be, in peace and joy and harmony and innocence. And it's time to reclaim that. We've got a ways to go because we're being bombarded from a lot of directions at once.
Yeah, we are. And, when you talk about Charlie Kirk, what happened with him, I sit there and I think of we're being so it is the food, the water, the air, but the trauma. We're being bombarded internationally by trauma nonstop. It's like they have a playbook, and it's like,
Yeah.
what are we going to do this month to terrorize the population to keep everybody in that dumbed down state? And so with that thought in mind, we know that there's going to be more to come. We don't know what they are, but we don't have to react in trauma base. So what thoughts do you have for people to prepare so that because we know that there's more to come, it's not over yet. So what can people do when they're watching the news, they hear the next trauma event? What can they do instead of an MK Ultra response?
Yeah, instead of watching the news, maybe get out in nature and feel the sun on your skin, breathe in the air, feel the earth under your feet. Ground into reality for a while, and find that inner strength within, align with the divine, so that we have a strong rudder to withstand anything that life puts in front of us. We all have been blessed with resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. What happens to us in life is not who we are. Who we are is still within, divinely protected, ready to be freed, ready to be able to live love at any point. So we need to understand that what happens to us isn't who we are, and that we have a protection against what happens. We can deal with any trauma, fear, grief, any imposed negativity by writing it out. There's a simple brain hack. The very act of moving a pen activates the logic part of the brain, where it shifts that fear, that trauma, repressed memory, whatever it is, it shifts it over to logic, opening neuron pathways all along the way. And written out with logic, it's consciously seen in front, and all of a sudden healing happens psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. It all aligns. It all comes together with that one simple brain hack. If we get writing by hand back in the school system, we
Yeah,
stop the indoctrination of our children right there. We have so many little things we can all do for ourselves. Everyone, everywhere, pick up that pen and paper, write out what's immobilizing you, add a solution, SOUL, solution, add a solution, because that'll force your brain to fire in new ways. And again, we opening those neuron pathways, getting that brain firing. That's the exercise. That's what we need to have happening. Mind control shuts them down. We need to open them up the way that is intended, the way that our brains are so perfectly made. They're so, it's amazing what we're capable of healing from, dealing with, when we remember what we have been blessed with, that we have this capacity within us, and reclaim it for ourselves. That way we can reclaim our free thought and retain it going forward and evolve with the knowledge that's our defense against mind control.
exactly. I love that message. And by the way, if I encourage everyone to purchase this book on your website transformation, and this is where you talk about journaling and writing things out. And you recently reminded me of that in a note. It's just journal, journal. And I write all the time, but it's good to just remember when we're triggered. I mean, that is such a key, because there's so many triggers that keep happening. And we we need to stay above that low level dark frequency that you've been talking about, where they want us to align with AI, because they lack complete creativity, and we
Right.
do, we do not. They can only mimic what they see us do, and try to control us, but they're way down here and we're actually way up here,
Yeah.
and they're trying their best to suck us down into where they're at. But it's like you said, we can say no and reclaim our own thought, our own knowledge, and we have that power and ability to do that. And the more we do that, Cathy, the more they lose, which is a key reason why we had difficulty today. You are so over target with your new book.
Yeah, they fear truth that makes us free, that other people will be able to embrace it, because it's natural to us. It's what we've been blessed with all along. It's like PTSD, time to heal. It's not about me. It's about every one of us. It's a reminder of our birthright to be able to heal, to be able to reclaim and retain our free thought. to have our defense against mind control, to live our joy, live our innocence, live the love we are every day, and make a positive difference. Our system is it's a disaster. It's a mess when we look at that aspect of things. When we understand that it had been found through Himmler research that there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. That ultimately is what thrust me into MKUltra mind control, was being born into a multi-generational incest-based family. So this pedophile agenda that is being pushed so hard is a
Yes.
mind control agenda. And that's an important thing to understand. When we do, we'll realize what I experienced as a little bitty toddler, born in 1957 in Muskegon, Michigan. And by 1960, I was already being used in the blackmail pornography. I was being prostituted to local politicians and law enforcement at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. These perpetrators have been meeting in secret to determine our fate, how they're going to traumatize us next.
Yes.
Meeting in secret, and then they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. So this has been going on my whole life. We hear the Epstein tapes, the Diddy tapes. All this has been going on forever, for such a long, long time. We need to realize that the roots of corruption run very, very deep, and they're done so well in allowing a corrupt system to continue through national security. Like all the way back in 1960, national security was invoked when my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails. And he was told he could receive immunity from prosecution if he'd sell me into MKUltra mind control. So he did. And that was all the way back then, that our justice system was being corrupted to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, so that these blackmail ops could continue, so that this funding mechanism of child sex trafficking could continue to fund this globalist agenda. That globalist agenda is to make us all dumbed down to their criminal minds and their slave society agenda. Now we look at child sex trafficking, and it has become one of the most lucrative businesses in the world. Follow the money. How did we get to this point? Secrecy, censorship, not letting people know what the effects of trauma are on the human mind so that we can counter it and reclaim our birthright to live free.
There is MK Ultra going on in this topic with adults because so the FBI says every year, the United States alone, we lose, and I dislike that word. It's like car keys. 800,000 children a year, 500,000 to 800,000 are the FBI statistics. We know they're part of the problem. So
Yeah.
it could be more. And the question is, why don't we, the people, recognize all of the trafficking that's going on right before our eyes, in our neighborhoods, through the school systems? People just don't seem to see it, Cathy. I find it astounding because the children, a lot of them are in plain sight.
They are. They first they have to understand about mind control. It's an invisible menace, and then they'll start learning how to recognize aspects of it. But one thing I found when I first started speaking out, I healed from within myself with those methods, and PTSD, time to heal, and uh, since I'd healed from within myself, I could no longer be triggered. The neuron pathways in my brain were firing properly. I no longer had compartmentalized memory that could be triggered into action. So I was able to actually speak out. Because I couldn't be triggered back in, I was able to effectively share my message, which has been the same for 35 years. And that people didn't want to hear it. They weren't very kind. And it's a good thing I didn't need their validation. I already knew what my truth was,
Right.
and instead I saw for the first time in my life how innocent people are. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just good. They're good people. They just don't think to look for that kind of criminal activity.
Yeah.
They're it, they don't realize it even exists until it affects them personally. And many families are affected now
Yes, they are.
through the child protective services, so-called child protective services. Are such a corrupt system that perpetuates
Yes, they
child
are.
sex trafficking. So many people are affected now that people want the truth. It's like, how did we get to this point? Well, slowly over time, it has been creeping in, and we can stop it all just by waking up and remembering who we are, why we're here, align with the divine within, live the love we are, and shine that light bright. um, we win. It's our victory. We have a saving grace within us. We just need to um, re-access it. So it took a long time to get here, but we can wake up fast and change this world in a heartbeat.
Yes, we can, because we need to work on these systems. Cathy, since I've been speaking the last couple of years and meeting everyone and have whistleblowers on, the intricate network in our systems is just astounding. And it will start with the Department of Reeducation,
Right.
where there's pedophile grooming beginning with and this has been going on at least since the Obama years, maybe before, but beginning in the any federally funded schooling that's pre-K, the sexualization of the children intentionally starts there in the curriculum. I have several whistleblower teachers from that. And then by the time we're also under Agenda 30, where they're trying to sexualize the children to make it normal that adults can have sex with children of any age, as if and that's throughout the public school system. And I've always encouraged parents, get the curriculum, see what's being, wake, knowledge, get free with
Yes.
knowledge. It's okay to open your eyes and see what's happening before it's too late. And then by the time they get to college, it's like icing on the cake with the indoctrination, which is what we're seeing with the massive, after Charlie Kirk's assassination, so many of the youth that age celebrating. It's complete MKUltra mind control. And then you take it through child protective services, which I've come to call child pedophile services.
Yeah.
Had a whistleblower on call it child profiting services. It's all of the above. You've had experience with your daughter, and it is a for-profit pedophilia organization. People don't realize our unjudicial system, it's a corporation. Individuals own the court systems, and a lot of those same individuals own the group homes and places that the children are placed. It is pure for profit, started by the Clintons. There is no justice in the injustice system. Our religious organizations, a lot of them are involved. We know the politicians are. It's every system is corrupt, which is why we all need to wake up with knowledge. And like you said, in short order, we the people could set all of this right if we come out, if we wake up.
And we're waking up. It's definitely happening. We're by far the
Yes.
majority. The media is just not telling us that. And 2016, so many of us were awake and aware. We overrode the rigged electronic algorithm to
Yeah.
elect a president who is not Hillary Clinton in the New World Order. So and of course, President Trump showed us the swamp in Washington D.C., the funding mechanism of drug and human trafficking across open borders. He showed us the extent of the corruption. And now, while this administration is working to unravel this deeply rooted, intricately woven corruption,
Yeah.
um, the children can't wait. It's
No.
up to us. So, what I'm so busy with these days is that people are restructuring outside the system. It's
Yes.
people helping people. And with this administration, this is the first time that we don't have obstacles in our way. We are free to be people helping people. We can open safe houses. We can help the children. We can make an impact in the school system. Get writing by hand back in the school system. We
Yes.
can take action. So people are getting out in their communities and they want to know exactly what they can do in their particular walk of life. So since I have a lot of information on healing that's our birthright, that has been deliberately left out of mental health, deliberately suppressed from the medical community, I've been sharing that information. Of course, it's in PTSD Time to Heal, my healing trilogy of books, PTSD Time to Heal,
Yeah.
Resolutions, which I just released.
Yeah.
Resolutions shows us that triggers aren't a bad thing. They help us access our subconscious. So once we understand what's driving our thoughts, we can start driving our own thoughts and make our own choices again. So it's it shows us how to use that to our benefit and how to cope with it all. And then Align with the Divine. This is my newest release. And it is a reminder to all survivors of trauma, anyone who's experienced trauma or grief or anything else can reclaim their joy. Because again, what happens to us is not who we are. Who we are is within, divinely protected, waiting to be freed. It's the child within us all. It's still there. Our childhood may have been a mess and taken from us, but the essence of our childish innocence, that ability to align with the divine, that connection with the source of all love and life that we have within us. It's ours. It's right there, and we can have it back anytime. Align with the divine is just a series of little stories of examples of how brilliant our minds are, the capacities, the abilities that we have, what we have with our wisdom, with telepathy, with our ability to discern truth when we allow our senses to kick in. We've got so much that we're able to tune to vibrationally and interconnect with each other on the deepest of levels. And this is something we need to revert back to as we reclaim our birthright to live free and to not have to live in a constant state of trauma and victimhood. So many survivors are so busy dealing with their past that they forget to embrace their future, to embrace their present right now. So those are little reminders to do all that. And as people are doing that, they're getting active again in society, talking to each other, eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, taking action, organizing outside this corrupted system. And I think one of the most important messages that I've been able to share is that, hey, we're free. We do not have obstacles in front of us anymore where we've been slammed for reaching out before. We can do it now. We're so free that all those years that my daughter Kelly and I have been through so much and kept apart. We're together all the time now. We're free to be, because we all can reclaim that now. Life has changed in so many ways, in so many positive ways, as we're moving forward with awareness and knowledge that we share this planet with some dark negative energy force perpetrators who have no business meddling in our brilliant minds and lives anymore. And people are taking back their power. So it's happening. And as it does, it's spreading throughout communities. And, where my community is awake, aware, and moral, the justice system is working, the perpetrators are being prosecuted. It's happening in communities all across the nation. The media is not telling us that.
That's
So
right.
I encourage everyone, just get out in your community, and get active yourself. Realign with your divine within. Apply PTSD time, PTSD Time to Heal to yourself. Apply, look into resolutions. Apply that, and reclaim control over your own mind and know how to identify and stop triggers and unalign with the divine within and start living that love. So these are methods that I live by and have for over 30 years, and speaking out and being able to maintain my truth to live my life's purpose. And I'm going to continue doing it until people everywhere remember who they are and why they're here, and we get through this evolutionary curve. We've already got the victory. We already got the numbers. It's just time to claim it and realize that we've been blessed with the saving grace within us all along. What a celebration we have in order.
Oh, exactly, and well deserved too. And so there's some topics from your book I wanted to look into a bit with you. One of your key messages is freedom from fear. And fear is something that is the low frequency, that's where these dark forces are at. And I know a lot of people listening to us, because we're being bombarded with things all the time that create the fear to try to create the mind control. Um, how do people get free from fear?
Well, understanding that it's the component of mind control, that it is for that purpose and it's being imposed for that reason. So the fear is a constant bombardment from outside ourselves. So when we look at it through eyes of truth, the truth frees us from that fear. And we don't have to cave into it. We don't have to go with it. We don't have to fall for it, because we have all the strength of the human spirit. We've got the ability to stand up against any fear that is being imposed. And vibrationally speaking, people wonder why I'm not fearful, speaking out against the perpetrators like the Clintons and everybody else that I do. It's like,
Yeah.
no, they got that the first 30 years of my life. They're not going to get it from me anymore. I'm going to live the love I am and keep my vibration high. They can't even touch that. I
No,
am
they
not going
can't.
to feed their vibration. I am not going to feed their level. I'm not going to do it.
That's right. Because they win in the secrecy and the darkness.
Yes.
And the more that and we were talking about this before I hit record, they are, everything they do is in secret, and everything that we do is in the light.
Yep.
And the darkness cannot overcome the light. That's not how it works. We in the light overcome the darkness. And to me, it reminds me of like roaches in that have to scurry back under, in the dark, because they can't take the bright light of truth that we shine on them. And when we expose reality and truth and the love that we have for each other. And I love, so I was looking at different parts of your book, the stories. You have a lot of giftings, I'll call it that, from what you lived through. And frankly, a lot of them resonated with me: the telepathy, remote viewing, animals, the dreams, time. But I'd love to hear, like telepathy. Talk to us about telepathy that you talk about in your book.
Well, when we lose our free thought, it's like we get blasted into the primitive parts of our brain. This is part of the human brain. This is how our brains work. We just have forgot about it. It's been dormant for a long time. And you don't have to endure trauma to access it. You just got to remember it's there and use it. So and start exercising it. So align with the divine is a good reminder of those other aspects of our brain that we can use, because people who've endured trauma, when we use those for our own good and our own healing, and realize that just because evil people were driving it back then doesn't make our brains evil. It doesn't make the capability that we have within evil. We're blessed with this resiliency. We're blessed with this amazing ability. So when we use the telepathy and the intuitions and the heightened vibrational senses and all these other aspects, we can actually calm our overactive adrenal systems. People who've been so horrifically abused and tortured. Our adrenal systems are just, you know, and the anxiety and the triggers and the, you know, and it's like, no, all that can calm right back down when we reclaim all these other aspects of our brain, because that's what they're there for. They give us inner peace. They allow us to align with the divine, get in flow, a synchronistic flow where things unfold so much bigger and better than anything we can imagine. And the telepathy that's there is it's beautiful. It's something that we have with animals. You know, I think that's our best exercise and realization of it. Um, we can communicate with our animals, but above all, we can communicate with each other. And telepathy knows no language. It knows no boundaries, no distance. The connections are absolutely there. So even in the years when my daughter Kelly was in the custody of the so-called Child Protective Services after being medically kidnapped out of a hospital and taken into custody, we still were able to stay connected with each other through these heightened senses, these intuitions, through our dreams, through telepathy, through those heightened aspects of our brain. And we were able to stay in touch and be able to communicate and understand. You know, Kelly knew that I never abandoned her for 1 minute, that I was forever working with everything that I had to get her free and to raise awareness of her situation. Raising that awareness is what compelled me to start speaking out. It wasn't fear or bitterness or, you know, anything to do with the abusers. It was about love for my daughter, love for humanity, and love for the children. You know, love is the most powerful force in the universe. So that was a big motive to be speaking out, and she knew that. And so, like, even now, we don't live in a victim mode of looking back and saying, "Oh, woe is me. We should have. We could have." You know, no. We've got this opportunity right now, and we look through the eyes of the reality of what we experienced in life. That is gives us a filter for understanding what in the world is going on. You know, it's like understanding this great awakening is real. Kelly was saying the other day, yeah, the Great Awakening is real, but wow, people sure have a long way to go to catch up. You know?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's so true. There's so much we got to embrace, including these other aspects of our brain. We have been dumbed down to using 10% or less of our brain. Come on,
Right.
let's reclaim this. We've been given a phenomenal insight and capability. We've been given the capacity for mind over matter, for mind over our physical bodies, so that we have the ability to heal that is within us. We don't have to rely on big pharma to drug us up. We've got the ability to heal when we understand our own mind, brain, body function and understand the resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. So we have capacities for physical healing and mental healing and psychological, emotional, spiritual healing. It's all right there. We've got it within us.
The
But
brain
we got
is
to
so
access those.
powerful. Yes, no, you're right. The brain is extremely powerful. And you know, one example that I think the audience would understand is if so I often talk about how our unmedical system can speak. I call it witchcraft. You are going to die in 2 years.
Right.
You are going, you know, you because your father had diabetes, you will have diabetes. And it's speaking death over people. And if their mind receives that as truth, then they can actually create diabetes,
Exactly.
cancer, create it in their body with their mind. And whenever I was little and surviving, I fully understood the power of my brain, even when I was that tiny, to create, to protect, to be aware at heightened levels of sensitivity that, well, Mark called it 44 times of visual acuity. I've noticed it too. My auditory is
Yeah.
very much heightened because of that. And I know the power of my brain because I know if I start getting sick, for example, if I think, oh no, I'm getting sick, then I'm going to get sicker. And if I start thinking, I mean, honestly believing, thinking, no, I'm not. My body's healthy and it's strong. There's no reason for it to be sick. I've taken good care of it. Then I don't get sick.
Yeah.
And that's the power of the mind that I don't think people are aware of hardly at all.
Yeah. It's like I don't have time to be sick, you know.
Yes,
So I don't.
me too.
And they like special forces are programmed with the MKUltra program of no time to bleed. That's so they
Yeah,
can take a bullet and keep on going. If our bodies are capable of that from outside manipulation, imagine what we can do driving it from within with the strength of spirit and power of love and purpose. We have an ability to regulate our own heartbeat and blood flow and
right.
we have so many capabilities. So if we can apply no time to bleed to ourselves, we can certainly apply no time for a virus,
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right. That's exactly right. And no time for all of these diseases.
Right.
With the mix of taking care of our bodies and our minds, but still we can create disease with thoughts. Um, but before we hit record, we were also talking about the so Dr. Jan Halper Hayes, I was on a show with her recently, and she said that 83% of the world is experiencing trauma now, and trauma from all the things that we're being bombarded with. And you and I were talking about victimhood, that there's a lot
Yeah.
of people living in victimization, which is understandable considering what we're bombarded with, but definitely not it's a choice. We don't have to live as victims. And that's a very low frequency when we do. So I know you have a message to people who are listening who, I mean, truly, we were victimized. That's a fact, but we're thriving now, and we're not living as victims, and everybody else can be this way too. So, what words do you have for people who are listening and they're like, I feel like a victim. I feel like I live in victimhood, and I have no idea how to get out.
Yeah, and if they look to a hypnotist to tell them how that's just going to mess them up further. If they're looking outside themselves for someone to tell them how to not be a victim, that is not going to happen. It comes from within. It comes from realization of truth and aligning with the divine and living the love that we are and realizing the capacity that we have within us for healing. Apply PTSD time to heal. It's simple birthright reclamation of free thought, free will. Um, Mental health has been deliberately taught wrong, how to perpetuate victimhood by the therapies that is so bad. And people go for years and years and years to therapy and get no better. And it's for a reason. It's because they were taught, very deliberately taught wrong. Because the information on our mind brain function was suppressed under national security when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the U.S. with Project Paperclip. With them came the formula for mind control and the need for secrecy. So the National Security Act was born right then, along with the CIA. And when the National Security Act came into being, then they took pertinent information on our birthright information and mind brain function and buried it under national security, away from the mental health community, away from education, away from society as a whole. So we've had generations now of forgetting, and because of that, we need to all remember who we are, why we're here, and that our birthright to our own mind brain functions, so that we don't look outside ourselves. I think the worst thing I can imagine is trauma victims going to the artificial intelligence therapy online, telling it doesn't make any sense in any way, but people do it. And it's like that, if we understand that when our brains experience trauma, they have an autogenic response to shutting down neuron pathways. So when my father's sexual abuse of me began in infancy, before I could know what he was doing was wrong. My brain knew it was wrong, and it shut down the neuron pathways and compartmentalized, repressed that memory all the way then. By the same token, our brains know when we're safe. And we have to be in a safe place, a safe environment. And when that happens, then the neuron pathways start opening. That's how healing happens, is it begins with a safe space. And if we go in to a therapist who's digging around and asking the wrong questions and saying, oh, was that daddy who abused you, when you're already suggestible? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was an uncle, but they just said daddy, and like, oh, yeah, it's daddy. It messes up the mind to have someone intruding on it when you're in a heightened suggestible state. That's why it's very important to heal from within in quiet with a pen and paper. Just write and journal it out. That opens neuron pathways and helps you heal and keeps you safe through the process, because you're not revealing secrets to anybody that are going to have to activate any panic. Well, since our brains know when it's being intruded on, you can imagine what hypnotherapy does then. It intrudes on the brain, and the brain says, no, I'm not going to heal. And it just keeps perpetuates victimhood and keeps someone in that suspended state instead of being able to move forward and reclaim their birthright to free thought, free will, strength of spirit. So, in so many ways, it's a spiritual journey, and it's an individual journey. We cannot heal for someone else. It's up to each and every one of us to heal ourselves and to gather the strength of spirit and start living love.
That's beautiful. I love that. So a couple more topics from your book before we close out. You talk about dream walking. What is dream walking?
Dream walking would be where, when you're sleeping and dreaming and you dream something very real. I suppose some people might think of it as a form of remote viewing, but if it happens when you're sleeping, call it dream walking. In ancient indigenous tribes would talk about such dreams, and sometimes we would get really, really divine insights through dream walking.
I understand that because I have dreams like that too. And it's always wonderful to talk to someone who has similar experiences, because your stories resonate. When it comes to remote viewing, that's a topic that a lot of people are curious about, confused about, and depending upon a person's background, some might call it, I've heard it called translating. I've heard it called astro projecting. I've heard it called remote viewing. I've heard it called different words, but so much of it's the same. And I know I've done remote viewing into other places, the future, the past. But how about did that start when you were little too?
Well, the remote viewing for me is extreme heightened intuition, but I think there's also telepathy involved, where, like, I share the story of when Kelly was turned out of custody and sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and then to a CIA crack house. And I couldn't find her. I did everything I could to reach her, and I couldn't find her. And then, so I had a dream, whether we call it remote viewing, dream walking, whatever. I saw exactly where she was. And I woke up the next morning and I told Mark, I said, I know where she is. And he grabbed his keys because he knew how, that's just such a big natural part of our life at that point. So he grabbed the keys, what he would need to secure her, and we drove there and got her. And I would say, turn here, turn here. I knew the place. So I've got a couple examples of that, of being in places being able to go places I've never been before just because of having been able to see it. So whatever term we want to put on it, I've had people just argue all just so much over a term, and it's like, well,
Yes, I
call it
know.
what you want.
I
I don't
know.
care.
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think, Cathy, that's how they divide us all,
Yes.
because we were never meant to be divided. We're each unique, beautiful souls with unique, beautiful giftings and ways of thinking and operating. And it's all very, very beautiful. But the dark forces will use terminology to, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, remote viewing is bad, but translating's good. Or I mean, it's the same thing. And it's just, it's words. We need to, I've been really big on defining words. And when you talk about dreams, so I remember, Cathy, when I was in, and I'm not sure I've shared this on a show before, but when I was in third grade, for an entire year, every night I dreamed I was somewhere else, and I was part of building so I was in a futuristic city, and it was somewhere way far in the future. It's not even a time now. And I saw the whole infrastructure being built, the whole transportation being built, a piece at a time. And every night I would go to sleep and I'd be back there dreaming the next level that was being built. And it took an entire year to build the infrastructure of this future city. And I've always just, remember that and marveled at it because, was I there? Was I remote viewing? Will I get to go again? I'm not exactly sure, but I know what I saw, and I know what I saw was real. And that it's impossible, Cathy, for a little girl in third grade to every
Yeah.
night, like where would I even get the concept of, oh, I think this year, I'm in third grade. I think my goal this year is to build a futuristic city step by step every night in my dreams for a year. I mean, you can't even conceive such a thing. So I completely understand you having dreams where go left, go right, go, because I saw this place being built, and I'm super
Yeah.
hopeful that one day, me now will get to see it. I'm not sure, but I completely, and I don't even have a word for it because I was in third grade. Just
Yeah.
was. It
Yeah.
just was.
There's words get in the way of defining so much, and people can argue all they want about words, but if we get beyond that and use our senses, really listen to each other, hear what each other's saying rather than what word they're using, and stop snap judging so fast. People people do that so quick, and we need to slow all that down and start really listening, hearing what's going on, feel what's being said. Telepathy doesn't lie. It's very true. It's very pure, and it's vibrational. So it's something that we can um, attune to and learn so much. We've got a lot to share with each other, and like Kelly said, a long way to go to catch up.
Exactly. And, I understand too with the telepathy. So I've discovered that I can speak to people in other continents, other
Yep.
states, or in the same room. It can be all, and you're having a conversation. It's as natural as it can be, and like you said, it's pure. There's no way to not understand or miscommunicate or not be aware of what's being said. It's abundantly true. It's truth in its purest form, and but it's without the words that get in the way, like this language, remote viewing, you know translating, whatever the words are. Whenever we're speaking in the mind, and I equate that to help the viewers understand with prayer and being in the spirit, and
Yes.
that it's the same thing except with people. So we all have our prayers that we do to and people are on different paths and different walks, and I respect where everyone's at, but wherever they're at in their minds, sometimes they'll speak, but a lot of it's in the mind, and they do believe that they're speaking to, my terminology, God, the Lord Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit. I know exactly who I'm speaking to, and it's in my mind, and they speak back. their voices too, and they each have a different voice. So do angels. So, and that's very, very natural. I understand it. There's no confusion. They understand me. And people, person to person, we can miscommunicate. But I believe if people think about their prayer, the way they pray, it's the same thing, but it's with another person.
Yeah, there's yeah, yeah. And on prayer, people would say you must pray a lot. It's like my life is a prayer. I
Yeah,
pray without ceasing. I live in a constant state of that because I
yeah,
know what it's like to be aligned with the divine. Anytime I was tortured, um, my spirit was in a safe, loving space. I know what that space is, and it's our saving grace. Why would I not stay attuned to that all the time? That's the only way to live. It's
that's
such
right.
a celebration. It's a joy. People say, well, how can you smile after all you've been through? And it's because I know that. because
Yes,
because I learned that, and it's a beautiful way to be. So, I can call it aligned with the divine. I can call it living love, whatever. People will say, yeah, well, love is, and they'll do some definition, emotional definition or something. And it's like, I'm actually talking about energetic frequency. I'm talking about the base core energy of being, that what our spirits are comprised of, who we are inside. When we align with the divine, what is that love source? That we can call it God, Jesus, we can call it any name we want to. And then I hear people say, no, you can't. You have to say this name and you have to say that name. And it's like, well, what if I just stay silent then and just live it, be it, project it, love it, and be completely aligned with it? Some things are more powerful than words,
yes.
and sometimes words get in the way. And again, when we all listen deeper, you
Yeah.
know, and listen with our hearts, listen with our soul, we can hear more.
It brings us together. God had me go to Al-Anon for 5 years because alcoholism runs really deep all over my family. And he wanted me to understand it. And part of my recovery was there. And, early on, they would call, so who I call God, they would call higher power. And then I learned, and some people even used a different word. And that's where I came to learn. And I was talking to the Lord about it one day, and he said, everybody is a God seeker and he loves it all. Whatever people call, he let it, and it's just words. And that's where I learned in Al-Anon that it's a word. And as soon as we all just relax about the terminology and focus on the heart of the person, where they're at in that moment of time, recognize where they've been, where they're going. We're all a work in process, but we all want the same thing: love, and love for each other, and love for our family and friends, and a good life. And the foundation of life is our relationships with people and how we help each other. And this is the way to victory. And this is why you're having such a hard time this past month with your new book, because it's such a breakthrough, where we win. This is how we win, by forgetting the words and forgetting all that divides us, and focusing on the person and their heart and their soul and where they're from, and having honor and respect for each other, and letting each person walk their own journey. It's not my business. I learned in Al-Anon one phrase: I'm responsible for myself to the tip of my nose. So I'm not responsible for how other people live and how they think and what they're supposed to do. You would call it living my love's perfect, that's
Yeah.
what I'm responsible for. And I just found several things helpful. But when you were on this topic, I thought, yes, higher power neutralized that whole problem in that group so that we could all just share from love and care and regard. And it made it a beautiful experience as opposed to divisive with terminology.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to people everywhere realizing that again, and families reuniting, and realizing how much words got in the way, how much people were divided by mind control. It was all love. it was love, concern for each other. Each thought the other was going to die if they did, so it's all love. We need to come together and put the imposed differences aside, and start living our freedom. And it begins with reclaiming free thought so that we can think to choose to align with the divine, live the love we are with strength of spirit. It's a beautiful way to get to live.
It is. I agree. I agree. So I'd like you again, I'd like to share, this is, you're calling it the trilogy for people. And so one of the books is, this is where I'm at in my reading, it was just reminding myself about journaling. So this is your PTSD, Time to Heal, and your resolutions book. And then also your Align
Yep,
with
align with the divine just came out, and all my books are available on Kindle and Audible too. I read them myself. I even read every single poem in the resolutions, but I read them myself to preserve the integrity of information, and to, authenticize it that way, because not only is truth censored, it's diluted. My books have been pirated and rewritten and promoting the globalist agenda, promoting pedophilia, just absolutely horrific what's been done by offering free ebooks all over the internet. Those free ebooks are pirated and altered and meant to dilute truth. We all need truth. So I encourage everyone, go direct to the source, research further, always research more. My truth is secured at trance-formation.com, trance-formation.com.
And with people, if they purchase directly from your website, there's an option where you'll sign copies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I sign them and process them myself, and I'll be offering the trilogy bundle, the healing trilogy, soon. I'm moving forward on all of that. Right now, I've got the holiday bundles up there, but they'll be replaced, and prices made as affordable as possible, and yet still allow me to be able to sign them and process them myself, because it's just me. Kelly helps a whole lot, but it's a lot to do all by myself. So I hope people be just patient and realize that I'm giving as fast as I can.
Exactly. Now, so do you have a preference if people order from Amazon or come to Transformation to purchase the books?
I wish they'd come to my website, and they
Okay.
can either purchase there on my website or through my website, because it will all link. If they want an Audible instead, they can link. The links are right there. They can
Oh,
go
good.
get that. So it just makes it easy that way. Plus, I've got so many blog posts there. I've got one going up right now, that is. I'm excited for it to come out. It's titled Erica Kirk, but it's about us all when we endure trauma and grief, and how we maintain free thought throughout, and navigate through how I was able to navigate through when Mark passed away 2017, how I dealt with that grief. So I've got a lot of information there that's pertinent to today, how what we see around us applies to um, mind control, and ultimately our ability to maintain our freedom regardless of what's imposed.
That's wonderful. Yes, I love your blog. So when I was still in deep recovery and healing before I started speaking, I was at your website all the time, reading the blogs and just absorbing everything you had to say. So I encourage all survivors to, and anyone. I mean, it's a wealth of
Yep.
information, whether you're a trauma survivor or not. But it a lot helps us understand too current events and what's happening with all of the fear-based trauma that's been induced. We talked about COVID, but especially many areas, so people can really understand what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps therapists, and really just anybody who's wanting truth, they're going to find something there. It also has my speaking events where I'm going to be traveling to, and also people can contact me there. So through there, so
Excellent.
it's
Okay.
everything right there.
Well, it's been wonderful having you on. I'm so excited. This has just been like a conversation between friends before I hit record, and ever since I did.
Yeah,
So
I love talking with you, and yeah, you're a dear friend. You're a wonderful, shining example of healing and what we're all capable of. And I treasure you. I love you so
thank
much.
you. I love
Thank
you
you.
too. I love you too. And to everybody listening, until next time, this is the Lynn Scott Hagerman podcast, where truth is rising, and so are we.